They just get you for a minute and you be so in love until you realize, girl, he is taking advantage of you. He is burning you out. And once the girl is burnt out, they on their way. And your pappy is on to the next one. I know.
I don't hear nobody out there. Hold it down.
So look, paying club members, we did a poll, and it was between this book we are about to read and this other book. Those of you who are not paying members, you guys don't know. Sorry. But there are privileges to being a paying member, right? I just want to let you all know that the only reason why we're not reading the other book is because it has not arrived yet. So we're going to do this book, and then right after we do this book, we're going to do the next book that the paying members already know about. Okay. So anyway, y'all, with all that being said, My Voice by Angie Martinez. I told you we riding with this 90s stuff. The 90s, 2000, oh, we riding with it. For a while. The seeds were planted for my obsession with hip-hop. The seeds were planted for my obsession with hip-hop as soon as I heard those opening lines of the Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight word. So it was different. I'll never forget it. And I know that there was different forms of rap before Rapper's Delight. But when I tell you that thing was on heavy rotation, man, it was incredible. It was a wave that took over. It was different. It was funky. Like all hip hop is not created equal. There's so many different genres of hip hop. And this particular hip hop brand at that time was disco and hip hop fused. It was the kind of hip hop that you can dance to. It was amazing. It was like they're not singing, they're kind of talking. And I want to dance because it's got a funky beat to it. I remember being a little girl like, what is this, Uncle Bama? Because we would stay with our Uncle Bama around this time. That's Consuela's dad. What is this, Uncle? And he would play it over and over and over on a record player. Over and over. You know how much work it takes to play a song over and over again on a record player? Child, it was like the arm had to, it would play on the vinyl. Zzz, child, it's hard to explain, girl. I can't even describe it. You're going to have to Google that. Whenever I hear that song, I'm instantly taken back to the night in September 1979 when I was 8 years old and used to stay uptown at my grandmother's apartment in Washington Heights. Even though I was supposed to be asleep, I snuck out of bed and peeked into the living room where my aunts, Melanie and Cindy, my mom's younger sisters, were hosting one of their house parties. Rapper's Delight was blasting off the record player, and I was completely mesmerized. Word. I didn't know what I was hearing, but the beat and the rhyming lyrics were infectious. Nothing could be greater than this. It was amazing. Where I come from, there were a lot of us kids having a similar experience. In fact, if you look at the history of hip-hop, it sprang from the same neighborhoods in the same time period as I did. From its roots in the house parties of the early 1970s, not unlike the ones my aunts would throw at my grandmother's apartment on Dykeman Street. House parties were a big thing. You really had fun. I don't even know if people throwing house parties. And if somebody was having a house party, I don't know if I would go to one because niggas get murked every day at a house party. We don't call them house parties no more at my age. We call them get-togethers. It was there and at the nearby homes of other family members in the Bronx where I was first exposed to the same melting pot of musical and cultural influences that also helped shape hip hop. And on both sides of my family tree, which was mostly Puerto Rican, but also Dominican and Cuban, there was always some kind of music playing, something great cooking, and we definitely had colorful characters and strong voices. My mother, Shirley Maldonado, who raised me as a single mom, was no exception. At 17, she had gotten pregnant and then had me when she was 18. She was married 1 year before she walked in on my father, Julio, aka Nat, in the shower with another woman or something like that. Despite everything, or perhaps because of everything, my mother always had dreams of getting out of the dysfunctional situation and doing better for herself, having more, learning more, going further. She just wanted more. Her maternal grandmother, Livia, is married to this man named Timmy. Timmy is a man that she acknowledges as her real grandfather, because whatever was going on between her maternal grandmother and her maternal grandfather, it was toxic. Grandma Libby had to get rid of that nigga, and she picked up Timmy. She's been through a lot and has seen a lot, and she's worked hard her whole life. Still, she's one of the funniest people I know. I get such a kick out of her. Her husband, not Timmy, Tommy, my bad, y'all. Tommy is a stand-up guy with a great smile and a short buzz cut left over from his service in the Marines. Tommy is a real Puerto Rican. Tommy is a real Puerto Rican, strong and stern, but the kind of stern that kids actually like. In fact, he's the man I know as my grandfather, probably the only steady male figure I ever had in my life. The other members of the household in those years included Aunt Melanie, Aunt Cindy, and Uncle Stephen, my mom's 3 younger siblings. They were all close in age, so there were a lot of sibling fights, usually over clothes or something stupid like that. But they escalated quickly and definitely kept the household lively. Cindy, born after my mother, was the middle child, who was very close to my mom, feisty and petite at 4'11". And Melanie, the youngest, liked to party and hit the clubs in the 80s. She was over 5'8", which was unusually tall for the whole family. Stephen, the only boy in the family, was rambunctious as a kid and later struggled with mental health issues. Even so, he was really close with my grandmother, and she always did her best to protect him. Our family roots uptown had been planted all the way back in the 1940s when my grandmother's grandfather, Miguel Livia's father, came from Cuba to 172nd Street and St. Nicholas. We all called him Yuelo, short for abuelo, grandpa in Spanish. Yuelo, always obsessed with taking pictures, used to photograph everything and actually took pictures of the car wreck that killed my great-grandmother. The images of that car crash have stayed with me my whole life. To this day, I'm never fully comfortable sitting in the passenger seat of a car. Yuelo was a larger-than-life figure, and I loved going to visit him. A fair-skinned Cuban, not tall but hefty. He liked to eat. Yuelo wore thick reading glasses and long-sleeved flannel shirts, and would keep a little disposable camera tucked in his shirt pocket so he could take pictures wherever he went. Yuelo was known on the block. Yuelo also taught me something about the reality of the neighborhood. Despite the fact that he was known on the block, he admitted that he had to be careful because he was also getting robbed regularly. I don't mind if it's with a gun, but it's the knives that scare me, he explained his robbery preference. What is up with that? What is up with that? You New Yorkers will pull out that blade quickly. We all have family historians that are not perfect. Or at least I like to think that one of the reasons I'm sympathetic to people's flaws and struggles is because I really believe everybody's bullshit is often not even about you. Word, don't take shit personal. You hear me? Because most of the time, they ain't mad at you, girl. They mad at somebody else. And they can't take their anger out on their husband cheating on you. You can't lead a nigga so you mad when you get to work. I'm at work. Leave me alone. Child, you be wanting to tell him, look, girl, your husband ain't fucking me. As best as I can remember, my father, Julio, or Nat as most of the family called him, Martinez, would have qualified as tall, dark, and handsome. The time I got to spend with him was at my grandmother Petra's apartment on 193rd in Washington Heights. My father would hoist me up onto his shoulders as soon as I arrived. Now pause. Okay. Because I can sympathize with this one. You go over your grandmother's house to see your pappy, but you spend the majority of your time with your grandparents, which I didn't mind, girl. Which I didn't mind, because my father wasn't really, we always had like this awkward relationship, child. I just didn't get him. It was just something always in between us, you know. But oh, I loved my grandmother and my grandfather. Ooh, everything. I love them too. So when I watched the back of my father's head get small going out the door, I didn't really care. Because I was with who I wanted to be with. Now you finna go see your father. Finna go see my father. Where he live at? He ain't got nowhere to see me at. He live with grandma. Am I going to see my father over my grandma's house? Yeah, okay, we cool, mama. What got on my nerves whenever I visited my dad was there always seemed to be a different woman around who were always over the top nice to me. But I never fell for it. Even as a child, I had a good sense of when people were full of shit. Girl, it's not the ladies that's full of shit, it's your pappy. Because them ladies probably really think that they about to be your next stepmammy. Answer no. Well, I'm imp the dimp, the ladies pimp, the women fight for my delight. I'm the grandmaster with the 3 MCs that shock the house for the young ladies. Child, these unsuspecting women don't know what hit them, I tell you. Child. Child, when I be meeting these new ladies, I be like, these new fiancés now. I be like, damn, fiancé. Damn. She might last a little longer than the one before. They just get you for a minute and you be so in love until you realize, girl, he is taking advantage of you. He is burning you out. And once the girl is burnt out, they on their way. And your pappy is on to the next one. I know. Aside from that, I loved everything about visiting my grandmother Petra, who adored and pampered me to no end. When I give love, I try to give love like my grandparents. I'm telling you, that's a unyielding love. And anybody who I say I love is very fortunate. Stand in line, motherfucker. In hindsight, I realized there was a lot of dysfunction in that house. I rarely remember my grandmother without a can of beer in her hand. And I have too many memories of gunshots outside when I stayed there. That wasn't my problem, child. Because my grandmother had a house on Capitol Hill. Now, my maternal grandmother, I told you we was right in the middle of some quarters. Low-income housing. Niggatry. One night, the gunshots seemed louder than normal, and the reaction to my grandma's face was different, too. In less than a minute, I turned to see my dad and my uncle as they bust into the apartment out of breath before disappearing into my father's room. My dad was always in the streets, hanging out with his friends on the corner all day, and I'd be right out there with him whenever I could. At around the age of 8, I watched my father get into a fistfight with a guy who pulled a switchblade out of his back pocket. As an adult, I don't have bad feelings towards my father. I feel like he was somebody who was struggling with his own issues, and being a parent didn't really work. So past a certain time, he no longer was. Beautifully put. From then on, it was just my mom, and she always made sure I felt loved. Even so, there was some negative fallout. In relationships to this day, I don't easily let others in. I believe in having 4 close friends, not 20. Some people say I'm guarded, but I say I'm careful. And maybe that's not always a bad thing. In my business, it's actually protected me from a lot of BS. So at the end of the day, the way I was raised, complications and all, made me stronger and smarter about the people I do choose to let in. I moved to Brooklyn when I was 8. Could not have come any sooner.